I didn't see you there. I was just reading Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. So far, well, it's a memoir by the creator of Nike. And that's the book I've been reading right now. It's quite good so far. I do enjoy it. And I forgot that I had pressed go on the live feed. It's saying, we're on page 81. Most days I didn't mind. For starters, I invested a healthy portion of my paycheck into Blue Ribbon's account at the bank. Blue Ribbon is what he used to call Nike, I think. Maybe? I don't know. I don't know how the story goes yet. It's broken up into different years, and I'm just not through the whole book yet. But if you guys are looking for a new thing to read, this one right here, Shoe Dog, is good so far. I enjoy it. Today I want to talk about, on episode 10, Zack Miller Live. Look, I shaved. I shot some TV today. It was lovely and beautiful. 3 new episodes of the show formerly known as Hampton Roads Business Weekly, now Connect. I'm just going to share this video real quick because that's important to do. So how are you? Happy Friday. Hope you all are doing wonderful. It's a beautiful day. February 23rd, 2018. Hard to believe it is already 2018. So, do one thing a day. What do I mean by that? So oftentimes people are waking up and they create a list, or they have these crazy lists that are their goal list or their bucket list or the things that they have to do that day, or the things that they think that they have to get done that day. What I have found is that can be really challenging. It can be really tough to try and do a million things in one day. Why? Well, for starters, it can be really emotionally draining if you don't get something done. Imagine if you set a goal, no matter whatever that goal is, but you know that you cannot achieve it that day. How hard is it going to be for you to actually stay positive on that? And so I think that you should do a series of smaller steps towards getting towards that big thing. But really think about this. Do one thing a day. Do one thing every day to get closer. So let's say you want to have the greatest podcast in the world. Are you focusing on finding and reaching out to the people who could be the greatest podcast guest ever? Are you tweaking and listening to your customers to figure out what they are looking for? Are you working on the actual edit of the show? Are you see what I'm getting at? Like, there's so many different things that you can do to just be moving forward. So if you want to do and you want to progress forward, I recommend that you start doing one thing every day to get you closer to that. Because when you try to manipulate the system or tell yourself you need to do a million things, you never get there. I mean, how often do you get everything done on your list? Let's say that this is a list. These are my upcoming ideas for shows. I'm not going to do all those in one day. That would be virtually impossible. But instead, I do one. Try to do one thing a day. It's episode 10 of Zack Miller Live. Why should you just do one thing a day? Because what you'll learn is if you make sure and ensure that that one thing gets done each and every day, you're going to stay positive and you're going to get closer and closer and closer to that ultimate goal. And so instead of trying to, build Rome in a day? Because it wasn't, do something to get you closer to that. So for me, what's my next big goal? Actually, I don't even think this is on my bucket list yet, but I'm going to need to add it. I'm writing this down. Now that I got the book deal, I want to be a best-selling author. Yep. And I'm going to be. But I know that to do that, I have to continue to build up my community. I have to do a series of really small steps to get there. If you have a big goal in mind, you have to break it down into a series of little, minute pieces. So my big goal right now is to be a best-selling author. And the best chance I have to do that is first understand what I need to do to become one of those. Good thing is I have a publisher from a New York publishing house who has had several bestsellers. So I can pick their brain to figure out what are the things that are necessary to get there. Right? I'm sure a good cover is something that's necessary. So I'm starting to have these communications with them. I'm starting to have these talks with them to figure out, like, okay, if I want this, now I'm going to have to put my mind to it and say that it's going to happen. But I'm going to have to do a series of different things. It means I'm going to have to go live on Facebook every day, right? Build that up every weekday. It means that I am going to have to create a ton of more relationships and friendships. I'm going to have to meet and create new relationships with influencers and people that would be willing to help me, and maybe in return for something or not. I'm going to have to get on a lot more podcasts. I'm going to have to shoot a lot more podcasts. And so when you have these crazy audacious goals, I think that's amazing, right? I want to be, ultimately, my main goal in business is to be the majority owner of an amusement park. I wasn't born with money, so that thing is not just going to happen. I have to build my wealth up to be able to do that. And so be thinking about this. Be thinking about, if you want that big action to happen, are you doing at least one thing a day to get closer to that? James Vanderpool, thank you. Appreciate it. James, I'm sure that you have something big, a big goal that you're going after in life, a big goal that you're going through or wanting to achieve in your business, right? But all too often, people want to win that thing that first day or that first time that they have that concept, or that, they want to win something. I like sports analogies because you don't win a championship, day one. It's years of preparation and planning and prepping and training, and then actually having the games and putting yourself together. And so if you're wanting to know why you haven't accomplished one of your big goals yet, what are you doing to increase that and to get closer to that by doing one thing a day? If you do just one thing a day, what will happen is you will incrementally get closer, right? Some days you'll do 2 or 10, but you have to do at least one. So my recommendation is, if you are trying to, build up your network, reach out to at least one person a day and just say, hey, there's a new app that I downloaded. I actually sent this to James Vanderpool via Twitter. And I said, hey man, I use this tool. It's called Productive. And I like it because it reminds me to actually do something every day. Contact a certain amount of people, write 1,000 words, go to the gym. I've gone to the gym, I think, 51 straight days. But this thing it's been great. And so I recommend you guys thinking about what's one thing that you can repetitively do every day to get you closer to something, and make sure you do that. And so for me, the things that I don't necessarily do every day, but I do often, are I'll shoot a podcast, or I'll edit a video, or I'll introduce myself to someone new. A series of repetitive things. Or it might just be like reach out to a number of people, right? And you say 5. It might be hard to reach out to 50 new people a day, but 5 is doable. And so these are little kind of tricks that you can start thinking about to improve your life, improve your day-to-day, help you get closer to those monuments and milestones that you're trying to achieve. James, if you're still listening, what's something that you're trying to achieve? That big, crazy goal, right? For some people, it's something that they can financially just buy, but they need to have more money to do that. So they either, need to save, they need to be making more money, they need to, start a second career, or rob a bank, whatever it might be. But, right now, my goal in business is to be a bestseller for my book, Anomaly, How to Finally Stand Out from the Crowd. Right? To be that means I have to have a lot of things go right for me. But they're not going to happen in one day. So I have to create a lot of relationships, or retouch with people who I used to have relationships with. So I'm going through calendars. I'm going through... I'm going through emails. I'm going through notes of people that I have a relationship with that I haven't talked to in a long time, and saying, hey, hello, how are you? A lot of people that have liked some of my videos or the Kickstarter, or given a campaign recently, I'm reaching out to them saying thank you and recreating that relationship with them. Because we all have probably hundreds or thousands of relationships already. What can we be doing to actually facilitate that, if you will, into a positive spin for yourself? But by doing that in a repetitive way every day, or every work day a week, right? I believe you should have your weekends type of person, right? I think you need your sanity. I think you need your bubble bath, because the last thing you want to have happen to you is burnout. And that's not fun. I even just gave myself a new idea for an upcoming show. Because Zack Live is a daily show, a weekday show, that I have to have a new piece of content for every single weekday. And if I'm going to do that, it means I have to have a lot of ideas. Also have a lot of guests. We had our first guest on yesterday. We'll have our next guest on next week. So that'll be really exciting. Several guests next week, so that should be fun. Stanley Sparrow at work, wishing I could hear this. Sorry, buddy. James Vanderpool. Grow my real estate sales business to invest in apartment buildings. That's cool. So you know the number that you need for an apartment building, and you've probably figured that out. And so you've probably broken that down into the... So this is where I think, it doesn't matter what you do. You can look at someone else and how they're doing it and figuring out how to dissect that and use it for your own business or life or whatever. And so I'm not into the real estate sales business or into apartment buildings, but my guess is James has figured out how much an apartment building costs in the area that he wants. Let's just call it $1 million, right? And that right now he has made $100,000. So he needs to 10x that, if you will, right? Or something around that. And so he then probably takes that and looks at the number and says, okay, for me to turn this kind of family home, single family home, into a series of apartment buildings, I have to be reaching out to 10 more people per month or whatever it is. And so by figuring out what that actual avenue is and then doing that every day to move forward is what I mean by doing that one thing a day. If you forget to do something, you're giving yourself an out. My buddy Tim Ryan has run for, almost 12 or 1,300 days straight, at least 2 or 3 miles. And so when I decided to start working out again, because I'd gotten off the bandwagon like many people do, no matter what it is, I said to myself, I need to follow what Tim is doing and don't go a day without working out. Now, I know you probably can't see it, but I think it's really important. You have to do it every day. Figure out what that task is every day and do it. Because one day not doing it turns into 2, turns into 3. And then you set a new habit of, I'm not doing that thing. So the one thing a day is really figuring out what's the task, or task plural, that repetitively you need to do every day to get closer to that next step. My guess is James needs to reach out to a couple new people every day and say, hey, I'm James Vanderpool and I'm open for business. Or create relationships with them, or, talk to them about Duke basketball or something like that, right? Like, things won't just happen because you think they will. If you watch the Kickstarter video for the Anomaly book, there's a line in it from a movie of mine that I like, where I think it's actually like the opening scene, where this kid wants to get into a really good medical school, and he goes, I just really want to get in. And the professor or the admissions director is like, well, wanting something, everyone wants something, but what are you willing to actually put into it to get to that level? And he says you have to do something that dazzles. Right? Like, James wants to own apartment buildings. Okay. But what is he willing to put in to actually get to that result? So, if you guys are watching, I really appreciate it. If you guys like what you're seeing, feel free to give it a like or love. If you guys have any questions as we're running into our Friday evenings. I was testing this time frame out. I wanted to see if a lot of people were not working and not thinking. It was my thought. A lot of people kind of rolling down, thinking, I'm done for the week. Let's catch up and watch Zack Miller live, because, that's what they should do with their Friday evenings, because there's nothing better in the world. What are some questions that you guys have for me, or what type of content would you like to start seeing me do? In the next few days, let me pull up my calendar and show you what I'm doing. So who's on next week? So we've been doing this show for a couple of weeks now, and I knew that I wanted to bring on guests. Well, as soon as I knew that I wanted to start reaching out to guests, I had to start reaching out to them. Because, no, there's not going to be a guest on every day, but let's say there's a guest on 2 days a week. That means I'm going to have to schedule that a few weeks out at least. All right, at 2 o'clock on Monday, it's Chris Hill on Zack Miller Live. I'm also going live with Jared Norman on his page at 9:30 in the morning. Then I'm shooting a 1004 show at 10:30. Then at 2 o'clock, Zack Miller Live. And then I have another meeting with a client. These are all things that are going to help me get to that next level in life. And so these are what you have to do, folks. It's important. Lauren Smith will be at 10:30 on Wednesday. And I think that's it for the lives next week. I could be wrong. Yep. 2 live events next week. Lauren and Chris. That should be lovely. So the one thing that you should do the one thing that you should do every day really is about figuring out what is that big milestone or bucket list or big time monumental opportunity that you want to happen. And by dissecting that and turning it into a very small thing, a very small task, a very small repeatable task that you can do every single day. I know that if I reach out to 5 people every day and introduce myself, at the end of the year, it's like 1,300 new relationships. What you'll learn is once you start doing the 5, maybe you can get to 6 or 7, right? And so if you don't start doing, you're not going to be able to catch up. So start doing something on a really small basis each and every day. I appreciate you guys being with me today. Zack Miller Live episode 10 is in the books. If you guys haven't yet, would love for you guys to check out my Kickstarter for the new book, Anomaly, How to Finally Stand Out from the Crowd, where you guys get the best deals and the earliest of access. Hope you guys have wonderful weekends. If you're watching this later in the comments, let me know what you think about the one thing and also what you would like to see from a content perspective in the future. Appreciate y'all's time. Have a lovely day. Deuces!